Rail is undoubtedly the superior form of mass transport. For centuries now, modern countries have invested billions collectively into building, maintaining, and upgrading this vital infrastructure. So why is New Zealand one of the few countries in the OECD not to have a functioning passenger rail network? The answer, as usual, is privatisation. Let me be clear. Aotearoa used to have a functioning, thriving network of passenger rail. It's only in the last few decades that we have scrapped so much of what we used to have and exchanged it for congested roads, expensive flights, and poor quality private bus services. Trains used to be the default way to get around the country. They were cheap, accessible, and frequent. But in the 1990s, the vast majority of our rail lines were privatised, then gutted, and then discarded. First, our publicly owned rail company, the New Zealand Rail Corporation, was sold off to the highest bidder by National's Ruth Richardson in 1993. They then cut services, decreased quality, and raised ticket prices to increase profitability. Consequently, less people started using the train network, which caused that same cycle to repeat. In rural areas, many communities lost that connection. Towns like Ohakune and Taumarunui in the central North Island and elsewhere flatlined economically and demographically. Older people, younger people, and the disabled community bore even more of the brunt. But it wasn't just rural communities that were affected. Cities small and large felt this impact too. There was now increased car traffic into the centre, requiring larger highways, wider roads, and much more parking capacity. These changes increased infrastructure costs, required less efficient land use, and made cities worse places to be in general. So, why is rail better? At the start of the video, I claimed that rail is clearly the superior form of mass transport. This is demonstrably true. For one, it's more space efficient. As the graph on screen shows, a 3.5 metre lane of car traffic can move at max 2,000 people per hour. Comparing this to a bus lane at 5,000 per hour, light rail at 20,000, and commuter rail at 90,000 people per hour, it's clear who the winners are. A car lane is even beaten out by a simple footpath, which can carry around 15,000 people per hour. Just imagine how much more room we'd all have if we used our space effectively. Rail is also more energy efficient. Steel wheels on steel tracks produce very little friction. Obviously, it's also way more efficient to have one large motor moving 200 people than 150 smaller motors all working on their own. It's also relatively easy to decarbonise, even where we lack overhead wires. For example, the new trains coming in 2029 to service the expanded Capital Connection will be hybrid battery vehicles. This means from Wellington to Waikanae they will operate with overhead wires, and from Waikanae to Palmerston North they will work on battery power. Of course, we should strive to standardise and expand our overhead wires network, but this will work great in the meantime. Currently, Capital Connection locomotives are purely diesel, which is not only polluting with higher operating expenditure, but also much louder and more bumpy than their electric counterparts. In addition, rail is also significantly safer than individual passenger vehicles. In an ideal world, rail would be fully grade separated, meaning that there would be no points where rail infrastructure intersects with other modes, also called railway crossings, as these are by far the most dangerous part of rail in general. However, even in their current state, rail is by far safer than other alternatives, as seen on this graph. So, rail uses less space, less energy, and is significantly safer than other modes of land transport. One of the government's most basic jobs is to provide services to its people. So why aren't they doing it when it comes to public transport? Rail is clearly the best option. We already have the tracks, we just need some trains. We should start with very simply running a few trains a day between Auckland and Wellington, stopping at major towns in between. It'd be around a 9-hour journey, which is perfect for an overnight train, as well as one leaving in the morning and one leaving at around midday. The trip would be even shorter if we maintained and upgraded our infrastructure. Air New Zealand alone runs 14 flights between these two centres every day, not to mention smaller cities like Hamilton and Palmerston North and the rest of the region too. Then, we should invest in smaller routes, such as Palmerston North to Napier and New Plymouth, and Christchurch to Dunedin. So, why is it controversial to think that we should actually use the infrastructure which we already have? Surely this is just common sense. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. This is my 4th video, and I really appreciate the support that I've received so far. If you have enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and liking the video. If you'd like me to cover a specific topic, or you have anything to say in general, feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you.